Xfinity is out, so they might not be able to join us today.
Oh.
You know, when that happens, it used to be you could just like go on with your life, but now it's more difficult.
Yeah, we're so dependent on our phones. It's insane, isn't it? There we go.
Hey, I was excited last night when I was fiddling around with my computer and found that hidden deeply is a calendar. These are the
Yes.
things that make us exciting these days.
Well, after
everybody
the latest.
have-
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say after the latest Apple iOS update a night or two ago, lots of things have mysteriously and wondrously changed.
I know that
Not necessarily to the best.
my phone has definitely changed since the last update. I am a little confused now. Okay, let's try to get started. Does everybody have a Siddur? Yes? Okay.
Yes. Yes, there it is.
You know, maybe one week we'll just all do this in pajamas. What do you think?
Maybe we can all get
Okay.
matching pajamas for May 22nd.
I'm gonna do this t-shirt.
So,
I like your shawl.
excuse me?
Oh,
No, I'm
somebody.
sorry, I was talking to, is it
Okay, so we're going
Alexis? Yeah.
to start on page 148 with the Chatzi Kaddish. Now, I think for now, I'm just going to sing straight through it, maybe a couple of times. And then if anybody feels like they know it, they can do it for us. And I would love that. Okay, but let's just practice it a couple of times.
What page?
It's on page 148. And I want you to remember, well, two things. First of all, 148. I think I talk too fast and I have my Philadelphia accent. So it's sometimes hard to understand me. So I wanted to say this. I probably have said this before, but this is a little bit like choir rehearsal. And in what way is it like choir rehearsal? We're going to rehearse these prayers until May. So you don't have to worry about being perfect today or next week or the week after that. All you want to do is a little bit better every time, right? If every time we practice, you get 3 or 4 more words, then by May, you'll be in fantastic shape, okay? And the other thing is, although there are definitely solos available, if people want to sing things together in a group, that is also possible. You don't have to do a solo. So if you rather sing with 1 or 2 other people, or even with 3 or 4 other people, and that will make you more comfortable, then you'll have that support. So don't worry about being perfect. I'd much rather you sing and make mistakes. Okay, now, the way Zoom works is if we all sing quietly, we might be able to hear each other. So let's start with people leaving their mics on if they want to. You don't have to, and singing quietly. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to have everyone muted and you'll just sing along with me. Okay. Oh, there you are. Hello. I'm glad that you were able to get on. Sandra, we're on page 148. 148, okay?
Thank you, Cantor.
It's so good that you can join us. Okay, here we go. La 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 la. Yetz gadal ve'yitadash me'ra בחייכון וביום אחד ובחיי כל בית ישראל בהקלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. בהקלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך ישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתגלה ויתהלל שמי תקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה בשירתה תושבתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן ואמרו אמן ואמרו amen. Amen. Okay. Is there anyone who feels like they can sing a section of this or even all of it and is volunteering? Oh, Lori, you and Nathan? You want to give and then after you, Anne will do it.
Okay. How much do you want to do the first?
Want to start the start? Okay.
Yikadal vayikadash shemei rabba. Amen. Ba'alma dirakirute v'yamlik malchute. V'chaya kon yom ekom. V'chaya dibay Israel. Sorry. Ba'agala uman kari. V'yimeru amen. Ba'agala ubizman karif v'li veru amen. Amen.
Woo!
Are we done there or do we keep going?
Go.
Feel free to keep going if you'd like to, but you're not required to. That would be great.
All right. Well,
Yeah, hey, Shmei.
yeah, hey, Rabba Mavara. Maya.
We get messed up with this Maya thing.
Maya part.
We'll go over that.
Yitbarak. Yitbarak. Vayishtabach. Vayitpa'ar. Vayitromam. Vayitnaseh. Vayithadak. Vayithaleh. Vayithalal. Shemei Dekudishah. Brehu. Lelam Hom Berkata. Nishiratata. Tushbikata Banekamata. Da Amire Alma. Venimeru Amen. Venimeru Amen. Venimeru Amen. Venimeru Amen. Amen.
That was very, very good. I mean, I only need to polish this much. It was excellent. Kol hakavod and brave. Very, very brave. Okay, Anne, do you want to do it?
Let me try. I'm trying to remember the first word. Yitbadav yitada shemei rabba. Be'alma. Bara. Here. Ruta Vayit. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, and you know, one thing that I'm sure many of you have noticed is that some of these prayers we know, I'm sorry, it's my morning schmutz. Some of these prayers we know, but in a kind of passive way. So we can sing along with other people, but we're not ready to lead them. There's nothing wrong with that. By the end of the year, you'll be able to lead many of them. Now, I'm really glad that Lori and Nathan did this because I want to show you how to do that line in the middle of the prayer. People have a lot of trouble with that line. I mean, my bar mitzvah students all struggle with it. And the first thing I want to tell you is there's kind of an Ashkenazic way of doing it that older people are very attached to. But we're going to do it using modern Sephardic Hebrew, which is what most synagogues in the United States use, and in Israel, most conservative synagogues at any rate. Okay, so let's just read it, echo me, right? I'll say it and then you can echo me. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Le'alam ul'almei almaya. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's do it again. For sure, let's do it again. Yeah, hey, Shmei Rabba. After me, echo me. Yeah, hey, Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Le'alam ul'almei almaya. Good. And then Yitbarach. So you'll notice that we go from Almaya into Yitbarach. And then we do Yitbarach again. So we do Yitbarach. And then we do Yitbarach. Right? Yitbarach. Yitbarach. Oh boy, somebody is trying really, really hard to get in. Let me see if I can help them. I don't have you on Zoom. Okay. I'm going to forward this person, I think, to Jennifer. I'm sorry, I'm trying to help somebody get in, but it'll only take a second. Oh, Jennifer, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm going to just pick her, I guess, right? That's what I should do. Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What's wrong, Diane?
Can I give you a phone number? This is a person who can't get in.
Yes, no problem.
A 713
Yep.
899
Okay.
2111.
2111, they're not able to get in?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. I'll take care of it.
Okay, thanks a bunch. Sorry, everybody. Sorry. All right. So let's do it again from Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Le'alam alme, almaya.
Le'olam Almaya.
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach.
Good. Again. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Yehesh Rabba Mavarach.
Le'alamul alme almaya.
Le'olam Almaya.
Yitbarach.
Yitbarach.
Good. Now let's practice singing it. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach.
Yehesh Rabba Mavarach.
Le'alamul alme almaya. Yitzbarach. Good. One more time. Yehi Shemei Rabba Mevarach. Le'alamul alme almaya. Yitbarach. Good. Okay. That is all the time we're going to spend on that. That was plenty of time that we spent, right? Okay. Page 149. We're going straight from 149 into 150. And I'm going to stand up because I want to demonstrate the choreography, okay? And you can do it too if you want to. 149. I'm just going to do it once myself, and then we'll do it together. So it's Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. And then the congregation does Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Yotzer or uvorei choshech. I'm sorry, that's on 150. Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Okay. So, right, this is one of, can somebody name another prayer that we bow on? What's another prayer that we bow on?
The beginning of the Amida. And then
The beginning of the Amidah. Very good. What's another one?
Aleinu.
Aleinu. And there's one more, but now that we're doing services online, it's not very noticeable. Do you know the other one? It's in the middle of the Amidah. What's another one that we bow on?
The next bracha.
It's called the Modim. Modim, we go, Modim anachnu lach, right? And that prayer, Modim, is a prayer of thanksgiving that we do in the middle of the standing prayer, in the middle of the Amidah. But that's okay. If we have time to talk about that, we will in the future. Okay. Anyway, would somebody like to lead the Baruch Hu and do the first line, or I could do the first line and you could do the second line? How about we'll do it that way? Oh, go ahead, Anne. Go ahead.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Okay. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
That's the second line.
Okay. I'm going to do the leader line, and who will do the response for me? Somebody volunteer to do the response. Oh, I need somebody else. Okay, Summer. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed.
Good. Okay, is there anybody who would do both lines for me? Okay, Alexis.
I will. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Alexis, go ahead. Anne, you're terrific, but I haven't heard Alexis yet.
Baruch et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed.
Okay, first of all, thank you for volunteering. And it was the right nusach, and by nusach I mean in Jewish prayer there's certain sort of melody groups, like for different parts of the service. And if you're leading the service and you're in the right nusach, you'll be completely fine. The main service that we're doing the bar mitzvah in, the b'nai mitzvah in, is a little bit more fussy about the melodies we use because there's accompaniment. Otherwise, but you had totally the correct nusach, although not precisely the melody that we were practicing today. Now,
Slicha.
Alo davar. You know what they say in Israel sometimes, or they did years ago? They would say, "Zelo big deal." It's not Zelo big deal. So on Baruch Hu, it looks like At Adonai, but it is Et Adonai. Baruch Hu Et. And I have a lot of students who, when they first learn this prayer, think that it's Baruch Hu Atah Adonai, because prayer formula that we all know so well, Baruch Atah Adonai. But it's Baruch Hu Et Adonai. Can everybody say Baruch Hu Et Adonai?
Baruch et Adonai.
Right. And then the second line, to be more confusing, is the first line is Baruch Hu, and the second is Baruch. Baruch Adonai. Baruch Adonai. Now let's take a look. We go straight from Baruch Hu into the creation prayer, the Yotzer prayer, which is one of my favorite little prayers. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Can you sing that with me?
Baruch
Eloheinu melech haolam.
Okay, I'll sing the next part and then you sing it after me. Yotzer or uvorei choshech. With me. Yotzer or uvorei choshech. Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Oseh shalom uvorei et hakol. Good. Okay. Now that Leah is in the Zoom room, Leah and I had a lesson this week. I've just managed to meet with a couple people, and a couple other people sent me recordings, which I really love. So I'm going to ask Leah, if you don't mind, to show us what you're working on right now. Can everyone turn to page 147?
I'm going, can you hear me?
Yes.
Raise your hand. Where are you?
I'm just at the point where I can do it without the recording, and I can't put the recording on at the same time, so I'm going to do it without the recording.
Oh, thank you for taking that leap.
Shochenad marom v'kadosh shemo v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai la yesharim nava tehila v'fi yesharim titala u'divrei tzadikim titbarach Uvlashon chasadim titromam, uvekerev kadoshim titkadash, uvmakalot rivavot amcha beit Yisrael. That's all.
Ooh. If you learn this fast, you're going to run out of things to learn.
It's all
I've
right.
got 2 paragraphs to learn for this one.
Anyway, that was very nice. So everyone can see that this is at the very beginning of the service. And since Leah already knows the main part of the service, I thought I would give her something new to learn. So she's working on this. Okay, that was so nice, Leah.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to do Or Chadash.
What page?
It's the bottom 2 lines on page 153. And we are eventually going to have somebody fill in some of the missing stuff between 150 and 153. But we're going to do the greatest hits first. Boy, I feel
Casey
so...
Kasem.
Here we go.
Or Chadash.
Okay, so right.
Or
Or Chadash al Zion, Ta'ir. Veniske Hulanu Meira Leoro
You switched.
Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot.
You
That
went
was
up an
too
octave.
high, right?
You went up an octave.
Yeah, it was too high. It's because it's such a wide range. I have to start really, really low. It was too high for me too.
Or Chadash.
Yeah, there you go.
Or
Or
Chadash.
Chadash Al Zion, Al Zion Ta'ir Veniske Hulanu Meira Leoro Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot.
That's different than the one I knew.
There are other melodies. This is the one that the Barg service usually uses. Does anybody know this one well enough to sing it by themselves?
Can we do it together first?
Oh, sure. Let's do it together one more time. Let's do it again. 1, 2, ready, go. Or Chadash al Zion, Ta'ir, Veniske Hulanu Meira Leoro Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. Let's do this. I often do this with my students. I'm going to sing the first 2 words. Whoever is able to sing the next 2 words. So I'll sing Or Chadash, you sing Al Zion, I'll sing Ta'ir Veniske, etc. Let's see if we can do it. It's just an experiment, okay? Or Chadash
Al Zion.
Al Zion
Ta'ir.
Hulanu Meira Atah Adonai You know, it was a little weird. Wasn't bad.
Wasn't good.
Unique.
Let's try again. And this time you start. First two words. Ba-dum, bum. Go ahead. Halcyon. Ha'ir. Venice. Oh, Baruch. Yotzer HaMe'orot. It's a little hard to maintain the key, like to stay in the same key. But that wasn't bad. You know, this actually is a nice little prayer. Not hard to learn. And I think this would be a good choice for someone who wants to start out with something that's not too daunting and work their way up from there. Because once you learn this little prayer, you can expand up because there are a lot of little sentences on this page that you could leave too. Okay, let's continue on page 154, where the red triangle is.
Red triangle.
Or orange triangle. What
My book
color is
doesn't have
that?
any colors.
Oh, your copy doesn't have colors. Okay. So
No,
it's
I've got the book.
the bottom paragraph. Vahavienu. Okay. Who remembers anything about what this prayer is about? What is this prayer about?
Oh, this is the
anybody-
Hatikva prayer.
That's right. We do it to the melody of Hatikva. And why do we do it to the melody of Hatikva? Who remembers?
It's about bringing Israel back, bringing all the people back.
Right, bringing the Jews from the four corners of the earth back to the land of Eretz Yisrael. Okay, very good. Okay, let's sing it all together once. You can use the transliteration if you need to. And then I don't want to put these people on the spot, but I know that there are people on this screen who have been practicing this one in particular. And if they want to volunteer afterwards to sing it, they can. Okay. Vahavienu leshalom me'arba kanfot haaretz etolifenu omemiyut le'artzenu Yelkoel Yeshua Ata Uvanu Vacharta Mikolam Elashon Ravtanu Leshimcha Hagadol Elasemet Lehodot Lecha Ulyachedha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai Haboper Yamo Yisrael be'ahava. Okay, so is there anyone who'd like to lead this? No? Okay, Anne, let's see how it goes. Go ahead, give it a try.
Vahavienu leshalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'choliki enu kameu Let's say, no, I should have. Ki el poel Yeshua tata. Uvanu paharta. Mikiko am velashon.
Okay,
I didn't match.
that's
the
okay.
scores to
You'll
the two.
practice. I really appreciate you volunteering, Anne. Good for you.
You're
Oh,
very
that's
sweet.
cool.
Alexis, are you
didn't match the words.
volunteering?
Oh my gosh, no, I am not.
Oh, you were just, okay. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Doing being brave.
Sorry, I really didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No worries.
Okay. Summer, were you going to volunteer?
I can give it a try, yeah.
Yay! Okay, don't worry about making mistakes. Just go for it.
Okay. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוכינו קומיות. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו והרת מכל עם ולשון, וקירבתנו לשם הגדול, סלע סלע באמת. Oh, I got it a little bit wrong.
Oh, you're doing great.
Better than I did.
להודות לך.
ולידך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני. I forgot the melody.
הבוחר בעמו.
Israel באהבה.
That's great. You got all the repetition.
Really,
down.
Summer, that was really good.
Oh, thank you.
That was really
Lost a little
good.
bit of it in the middle, but
Yes, I think, woo!
yeah, thanks.
You know, that only needs a little tiny bit of polishing. It was really, really nice.
Thank you.
To you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you matched up the words with the melody and you repeated in all the right places.
That's
Oh,
right, Anne. And you sound like a teacher. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what you needed to do, and that's what you did. Right. Knowing where all the words repeat, you did great.
Yeah, well,
Okay, now what comes next? What's the next prayer?
The next
Shema.
page.
Shema.
Shema. Okay, let's
Okay.
just, for today, let's just do it once so that we have time to work on the Amidah. So, when do we move our hand from our, we all know that we're going to cover our eyes for the first sentence, but when do we put our hand down after that?
Right away.
Right away, right? Some people aren't sure and they just leave their hand up there. So there are a couple other places where the Shema shows up. What are a couple of other places in the prayer book where Shema shows up? Do you remember?
When we're about to read from the Torah.
Right, in the Torah service, right. Right before we march around with the Torah, we do the first line of this, right? That's good. And there's another place. Where is the other place?
The Musaf,
Sorry, what did you say?
the Musaf service? The Musaf.
In the Kedusha. Yes, in the Kedusha. Very good. Very good. So in the Kedusha, in the Musaf, right, we sing Shema. So people are a little confused because of this tradition of covering our eyes for Shema. We only do that here, Shema ve'ahavta. We don't cover our eyes during the Torah service, and we don't cover our eyes during the Kedusha. This is the only Shema that we cover our eyes for, okay? There's also a custom of very quickly reciting the sentence after the Shema. Sorry. Which is Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. So I just want to go over that for a second. So just repeat after me. Baruch
Baruch Shem
Vod
Vod
Malchuto
Leolam
Leolam Vayed.
Olam Va'ed.
Quietly.
So what you would do is you would do this. You would do Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem
Kavod. Olam Vayed.
like that. Okay, and then you sing Be'ahavta. All right, but we're gonna do that this time. So if you're not able to do Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed, do as much of it as you are able to do. Here we go. Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר נוהגים מצווך היום לך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך לחמך בטרף בשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות חוטך ובשעריך. Let's continue with the Amidah on page 159, right? And it's customary to stand. When you're learning something, you don't have to, you're just practicing, you don't have to stand, but just for the sake of practice, I'm going to stand. How many of you had time to practice this? A couple people? That's okay. That's okay. Okay, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Stop. I should have mentioned for people that need a transliteration, it's on page 466. 466. Okay, let's try it again. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor El Elyon Gomer Edim Tovim Bekonei Hakol Bezocher Chasdei Avot Umevim Elokei B'neihem Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava. Turn the page. Melech Ozer Ukokei Umoshia Umagin Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham Ufokei Sarah Hagi por leolam Adonai, Mechaye metim ata, Rav lehoshia, Mashi paruach umorid hadrashem. Stop for a second. We're in May, so we're not going to be singing Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGashem. We're not going to be singing that line. And that's after Passover, you don't sing that line, right? So we're going to go straight from Atagi Bor Leolam Adonai Mechaye Metim Mata Rav right to Michal Kel. Michal Kel Chayim Esed Mechayim
Rachamim Rabim.
Mecholim Umatir Ashurim Umekayem Emunato Ishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'alot Umidor Melach Melech Mimit Umechayeh Umatzliach Yeshua V'ne'emanat lehachayot eitim Baruch atah Adonai Mechayim. Very nice. Now, when we practice it that way, is it too chaotic for people?
No, it's very good. No, it's good.
You don't mind if we're all singing together like that, even though it's a little weird? It's
It's
thank
fine.
you for your
We can
support.
focus on you.
It really sounds a lot like singing together, which is great.
So, to the extent possible, I'd rather do it that way. Then it feels like a real class, even though it's a little chaotic. But you can talk to me privately if this is something that's difficult for you. You don't have to come out and say it in front of everyone. Just let me know. And if you haven't made an appointment to work with me privately yet, I love having the opportunity to get to know everybody better and to pick an assignment to work on together. That's like part of the pleasure for me in doing
What's
the program.
your contact
And
information?
I have emailed you a couple times, so check your email.
You have?
Yes.
Oh, what am I looking for when I search for your email? What do I search for?
DianeDorf@gmail.com. DianeDorf@gmail.com. Should I text everyone with that? I'm going to give you all my contact information again, and you can copy it down. You are welcome to either email me or text me.
What about the phone number?
I'm putting it in right now. Do you know how to access the text, Anne? Can you see the text there?
569.
Okay. So we were supposed to work on the Torah blessings, right? Let's go to Torah blessings on page 172, isn't it? 172. Okay. Let's see. Let's start with me being, I'm going to be the bat mitzvah and you're the congregation. Okay, so we'll do it first with me being the bat mitzvah. Okay, here I go. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And then I'm going to read my Torah portion. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, or some other Torah portion. It won't be that one. And then I'm going to do the blessing after. So I just chanted my Torah portion. I'm going to touch the Torah with my talit, give it a little kiss, and then I'm going to say the blessing after. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, good. All right. So, do we have any volunteers has anybody been practicing this and feels ready to do it for me? Okay, thank you. Lori and Nathan, go ahead.
Go over.
You go first.
Go.
Baruch
Adonai Hambarah.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'harbanu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu l'tor emet v'hayim olam natan betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
That was so good. Kol hakavod. Okay. Would somebody else like to do it for us? Summer
Uh,
and Anne, okay?
do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Could you help me with the melody and the beat?
Baruch hu et Adonai.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
That was lovely, Summer. So the only thing is the second line is done twice, right?
Oh, okay.
Other than that, video. Okay. Anne, do you want to do it?
Let me try. Baruch et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. That was very good, Anne. How did you feel?
Nervous.
Oh, see, that's why it's good to have this class so that you can feel nervous, right? Okay. I think that's all I have time for. Would one more person like to do the Torah blessings before we say goodbye?
I'll try it.
Good for you, Suzanne.
Baruch Adonai Hamvara.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen.
This is where I have the
Baruch Atah
Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chayei Olam Nata B'Toheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
It's not the-
Okay, that was nice, Suzanne. You sound pretty comfortable.
Well, let's put it this way. It's not the first time I've done that one.
That was nice.
Do we
Proud of you.
sign out and then sign in again for Rabbi Morgan? or
No,
can we
you
just
stay, you just stay there. I'm the only one who needs to sign out. So you
Well,
stay.
I'm fine. I
I'm
said
just-
that also.
if you're staying for Steve's class, you shouldn't go anywhere except to get a cup of coffee, okay? So
I'm
you
gonna do that.
just walk out of the room, get your coffee, come back.
And I'm leaving, so I will see all of you.
Bye.
Bye.
Lisa, you're probably leaving too.
Thank you, Diane.
Diane? Is she here? She's gone.
We're waiting for Rabbi Morgan.
Where do you go?
Well, she finished with her class and now he's gonna come.
There was really 10-mile-an-hour, 13-mile-an-hour wind. Right now, there's nothing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just realized I have to go. See you next week. Bye.
Okay, hello everybody.
Thanks.
Hey, hello. Okay, so how did the first hour go?
Good.
Good, because this is being recorded, so Diane's going to hear what you say. So just okay. Okay, so let's take a look at the next section here. Oh, I'm the host now. That's good. Okay. So everybody's ready to go?
Yeah.
All set up, psyched up? Okay. So we're going to take a look at today the blessings that come before and after the Shema. So remember, we're reciting the Shema twice every day because it says when you lie down and when you rise up, right? In that first paragraph. You should write these words on the doorposts of your house, on your gates, keep them as a symbol before your eyes, and bind them as a sign on your hands. And you should speak about it when you walk on the way, when you're at home, and when you walk on the way, and when you lie down and when you rise up. So when you lie down and when you rise up, we took that literally. These words we're going to recite when we lie down and when we rise up. So in the evening and in the morning. And then they attached that paragraph to the two other paragraphs we described last week. One of them which kind of repeats some of that same material, and the other one which talks about fringes on the corners of your garments. So they're all mnemonic devices. I think that's what they're connecting by. All these different memory devices to remind ourselves that there's a God in the world who created us and wants us to be good, because we need to be reminded all the time. And so we put those three paragraphs together, and then the rabbis created a set of blessings to encapsulate them things to think about while we're reciting those 3 paragraphs. That's where we're at today. So let's take a look at, whoops, share screen. Okay, here we go. Boom. Now the handout has 2 parts to it. One is the outline, and the other is the actual text of the blessings. And so what I did for my purposes today is I divided them up into 2 different parts so that I can switch back and forth between them easier, because the text itself, as it appears in the handout, is sideways. Did you notice that? So I wanted it to be horizontal, and I didn't want to keep flipping back and forth. So I created 2 separate things, but it's all in the handout. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So one way to think about these blessings that come before and after the Shema was kind of crystallized in the writings of a modern Jewish philosopher named Franz Rosenzweig, who lived around the turn of the 20th century. And he said that there's 3 great themes in the Jewish tradition that think about God, 3 ways to think about God. God as creator, right? So he created the world. God as revealer, though he gave us a Torah, right? He gives us wisdom and insight in Jewish tradition by means of the Torah. So he revealed the Torah. And 3, that God acts in history. And the primary example of God acting in history is when he took us out of slavery in Egypt, right? So that God is a redeemer. I'm using he, by the way, that's, God is not a gender, just to say. God, right, acts in ways that promote goodness in the world. And one of those ways of pushing the world towards goodness is by redeeming, by taking people out of difficult situations and putting them into a better world. Right? So redemption, and the primary example of that was slavery in Egypt. And these 3 themes, it turns out, are what is expressed in the blessings that come before and after the Shema. And the idea that Franz Rosenzweig wanted to emphasize was that all these aspects, these 3 aspects of God, still refer to the one and only unique creator, right? He's the creator, revealer, redeemer, all in one. So before we look at the blessings themselves, I want to talk about the word Baruch itself. So you probably learned this already in Hebrew. Baruch means blessed. But what does it mean? Are we blessing God? Baruch atah, blessed are you, like we're giving God a blessing? So this is what my teacher told me. The word Baruch comes from, language scholars now compare ancient Near Eastern languages to try and understand what Hebrew words mean. And in the ancient Akkadian language, which is a related language to Hebrew, there's a word barakah, which means a supernatural power, like a spiritual power, a numinous power. That's a barakah. And so, for instance, pagans believed that trees had a barakah. And what was their barakah? That they die in the wintertime, they lose all their leaves, and they look dead in winter. And then miraculously in the springtime, they sprout new leaves. They come back to life. Trees seem to have the power of life over death. They can come back to life after they're dead. That's a barakah that trees have. And that's why ancient pagans used to worship trees. By the way, the idea of knocking on wood, although some people believe it comes from the cross and it's a Christian thing, we're knocking on wood, reminding ourselves of the cross of Jesus. Others say, no, it actually goes back to pagan times when trees, and therefore wood, was thought of as having special powers. In any case, that's one example of barakah. Another example of barakah is camels. Camels can seemingly walk through the desert for days without needing water. They're amazing. They can store water for such a long time. An amazing barakah that camels have. So if that is the term barakah, and it comes into the language of Hebrew as this, again, this sort of idea of the special numinous supernatural power, the form of this word, Baruch, right? In Hebrew, unlike English, English is such a crazy language, it's hard to say that there's forms. But if you study Spanish or virtually any other language, and you look at a form of a word, you can tell it's masculine, feminine, present, past tense, future tense, subjunctive tense, right? You can tell what it is by the way the verb is formed. Do the same thing in Hebrew. And the form Baruch, I'll give you a few examples. If something is written down in writing, right? So lichtov means to write. If something is written, it's katuv. To open a door is liftoach. If a door is opened, it's patuach. So katuv, patuach, baruch, you can see it fits that form, a-u, right? That a-u vowel form. And so what does it baruch mean? It's an adjective, like the door is opened, it is written, right? It's an adjective, it's a verbal adjective, it's an adjective, right? And so it's describing something. And so baruch is an adjective that means that God is possessed of a certain numinous power, a certain supernatural power. God has this power. That's what Baruch means, at least according to my teacher. And so we're not giving God a blessing. We are recognizing a power that God has. So now I'll take an example. You maybe learned Kiddush already, right? So the blessing for wine, right? Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. So Baruch atah, possessed of this power are you, God, that you can create fruit on the vine. God has this power that he can bring fruit on a vine. Or if when you eat an apple, you say, possessed of this power are you, God, because you can create fruit that grows on trees. Or if it's a vegetable that grows out of the ground, like a tomato or a carrot, possessed of this power are you, God, that you can get fruit that grows out of the ground, right? And so a baruch is recognizing a power that God has. Oftentimes, in the examples I just gave, God's creative power, that he's able to create these things, to bring these things into existence. So it's not that we are blessing God. We're not bestowing anything upon God. We're acknowledging God's powers. That's what most blessings are. Okay, now let's talk about what they are. So the first blessing that comes before the Shema talks about God as creator. Remember in Franz Rosenzweig's idea, you got creation, revelation, redemption. So this is God as creator. And in the evening, it's one paragraph. So let me show you what that paragraph is. This is, can you see the evening service here? Is that possible? You all see that I switched to the evening here. Praised are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who brings the evening dusk, right? Praised is one way to express this, right? How do we say you are possessed of this power? We're saying, wow, God, you have this power. So that's kind of like saying praise, right? Praised are you, God, that you can bring the evening dusk. You know, it's nighttime, and it's amazing that God set up this planetary system, and our Earth rotates at 24-hour days so that we can have day and night. We have time to sleep at night, and we have time in the morning. It's just things we take for granted that we shouldn't. You open the gates of dawn with wisdom, right? So the sun is going to come up again tomorrow. We're saying this in the evening. And change the days divisions with understanding, the succession of seasons, and arrange the stars in the sky according to your will. Ancient people, not me, but many people who are astronomers can tell what season it is by what constellations are in the sky, right? And they can also tell if they're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere by what constellations are in the sky. So the stars in the ancient world was one way to tell what season you were in, right? That's an amazing thing that the stars kind of help us to figure out what time of year we're in. You create day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness away from light. Eternal, you rule over, embraces forever. Praised are you who brings each evening's dusk. So this is praising God or acknowledging God's power in creation, but especially noting evening because it's nighttime. So thank you, God, for creating day and night, but we're going to focus right now on the evening. Now in the morning, that's the evening prayer. In the morning, it's about light. It's going to be God creation, God creating, but it's going to be about light, focusing on light because the sun just came up. Praised are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates light and fashions darkness, ordaining the order of all creation. And now the blessing is going to go on for pages. In the evening, we had one paragraph about God creating. Now we're going to go on for pages about how wonderful God is in creating. And not only are we going to say where God's creating and wonderful, but we're imagining that the angels in heaven are also praising God for doing such a great job creating things. So how manifold are your works, O Lord, with wisdom you fashioned them all. The earth abounds with your creation, uniquely exalted since earliest time, and throws with praise, blah, blah, blah. Our rock and our redeemer, holy beings, these are the angels. You shall be praised forever. You fashioned angelic spirits to serve you. Right? In chorus, they proclaim with reverence the words of the living God, the eternal King. Right? The great, mighty, awesome King, the Holy One, blah, blah, blah. So how many people have seen the movie City of Angels with Nicolas Cage? Okay, I don't recommend this movie. I mean, I'm not a Nicolas Cage fan, but I did see the movie. And there's one scene in the movie that I want to talk about, right? So anyway, the movie is about Nicolas Cage, who's an angel, and he falls in love with a human, and he decides he wants to give up being an angel and become a human so he can have, fall in love with her. Anyway, I know it's a love story, whatever. The point is, there's this one scene in the movie where Nicolas Cage is amongst all the other angels, and they're standing on earth, and the sun is rising in the east. And all the angels are facing towards the sun as the sun is coming up, and they're singing God's praises. And that scene is what this prayer is describing. Okay. Now, I'm not a big person with angels. Angels to me, I don't know what that means, but our ancestors believed that this kind of thing happened, right? That there's this scene where all the angels are praising God at dawn. And that's what this is about, right? So all these angels are singing God's praise for creation as the sun comes up in the morning, right? And so this poet who wrote this prayer for us is waxing poetic on this idea. And what do we know that the angels say? Well, from the prophet Isaiah, we know they say, holy, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, the whole world is filled with your glory. And what else would you be saying if you're going to sing God's praises of creation when the sun's coming up? The whole world is full of your glory. Look at this magnificent scene, right? So, so that's what it is. And then it comes down to this, to praiseworthy God they sing, et cetera, awesome and praise, sovereign and wonders, day after day his goodness, his creation. So sang the psalmist, praise the creator of the great lights, for his love endures forever. So, and then we come back to the theme of creation, and particularly creation of light. Cause a new light to shine on Zion. May we all sooner share a portion of its radiance. Praised are you, creator of lights. So there's a few things I want to say about this. First of all, it takes much longer. It's several pages long, as opposed to the evening blessing of creation. And the reason for that is at nighttime, people want to go home and go to sleep. They want to eat dinner, go to sleep. In the morning, you're not so anxious to get to work right away, at least in the old days. You have a little more time on your hand. The day's just beginning. So the prayer poets who wrote our prayers felt a little more comfortable waxing poetic and taking a little longer to tell their story. So the prayers typically are much longer in the morning than they are in the evening. And this is a classic example of that. It goes on for pages in the morning. The other thing I want to say, oh, by the way, I'm married to a cantor. I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's not just the poetry. We assume that these prayers were not read, they were sung. And they were probably sung to some beautiful music. And if you think about ancient Christian music, what do they call the High Middle Ages, the cantorial music of those days, right? That's right. That's the kind of style of music that probably this was sung to. It probably sounded beautiful, and it's part of what carried the prayer service. People didn't come just to recite the words. They came to hear the music and be inspired by the music, singing the words. So again, it was a good way to sort of be uplifted in the morning if you're waxing poetic and it's also being done to this beautiful music, right? It's a great way to start the morning. Okay, now the other thing I would say is in the early days of Jewish prayer writing, all that was fixed, all that the rabbis fixed in the early 2 centuries was what we call the seal of the blessing, the last line, right? So in the evening, it's Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, God, who brings on the evening dusk. That line was what was fixed. And then the person who was leading the prayer service could feel free to write whatever kind of creative poetry he wanted to write on the theme of God's creating, dealing with the evening. And the same thing in the morning. They would write whatever kind of creative thing they wanted to write, as long as they came back to the theme of God's creating and light. So for those of you who are musicians, anybody here a musician? Yeah. Anybody jazz, like jazz? Okay, oh, cool. All right, so in jazz, I'm not a jazz player, but I understand in jazz, right? When the saxophone gets to do a solo, right? He goes off and everybody else is quiet, and he goes off and does his deal, and he goes off into the stratosphere in his own little world of music, creating this beautiful whatever saxophone piece, right? How does he signal to the rest of the band that he wants them to come back in and join him, and we're going to go back to playing what we were doing before I went off into my own little world? The way he does it is he plays a measure or two of the melody that they were playing before he went off into his solo, right? And that's the cue to the rest of the band. Oh yeah, you're supposed to join in now, and we're going to go back to playing what we were playing before. Does that sound right?
That's exactly right.
Okay. That is exactly and precisely how these poems are written. So look at how it was done. He went off into the stratosphere talking about angels singing and praising God and sun and moon and stars and all this other crazy stuff, right? How does he tell him, I want you to come back in, we're going to conclude now? All right, so what he does is praise the creator of great lights, for his love endures forever. Ooh, he mentioned light again. Cause a new light to shine on Zion. That's the clue. We're coming to the end now. And then may we all soon share a portion of his reign. Praised are you, creator of lights. The seal of the blessing has to come back to the idea of light. So he signaled that he's coming back to the theme with the sentences before where he says, yeah, we're coming back to the light idea. I know I was out in the stratosphere talking about the angels and everything, but now we're back to lights, God creating lights. Now, the other thing I want to say about this is, one more thing I want to say, and then we can leave this one, is the person who wrote this prayer violated the rules. Yeah, he said he's coming back to light, but look what he did. He was really sneaky. He's not talking about the sun, moon, and stars. The last thing he said was cause a new light to shine on Zion. He's not talking about the sun, moon, and stars shining on Zion. What does a new light shining on Zion mean? Okay, you have to know that the Jews were in exile. We had been banished from our homeland, and we desperately wanted the Messiah to come and return us to our homeland. And when he returns to the homeland, according to the prophets, in the end of days, there's not going to be day and night. Everything is going to be day. The light's going to shine forever because God's light will fill the world eternally, right? When he is saying he wants a new light to shine on Zion, he wants the Messianic era to happen now. It's not about the sun, moon, and stars. It's about Messianism. He cheated. He snuck that idea in here where it didn't belong, but he pretended it belonged by calling it a new light to shine on Zion, right? And in fact, he was caught. And there were rabbis who said, wait a second. This is about God creating. This is not about Messiah. You're in the wrong prayer. You want to pray for the Messianic era? That's a prayer for that. That's somewhere else. Here, we're talking about creation. Don't talk about new light shining on Zion. But the rabbis lost, right? It's still in the prayer book. So I just wanted to point that out. This is one of many examples where the Jewish desire to return home popped up in places where it didn't really belong. And despite the best intentions of the rabbis to say this is the wrong place for this, it stayed in the prayer book. It's still here. Okay, that's enough on that. So that's the first blessing before the Shema, dealing with God as creator. The second blessing before the Shema, according to our idea with Franz Rosenzweig, right? After creator comes revealer, God's revelation. God's giving us the Torah. And so sure enough, in the evening, we have the blessing. Sorry, let me just do this here. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael. With an everlasting love, you have loved the house of Israel. You have loved the people teaching us Torah and mitzvot. There it is, revelation. God's revealing us the Torah and commandments, statutes, and laws. Therefore, Lord our God, when we lie down to sleep and when we rise, we will think of your laws and speak of them, rejoicing in your Torah and mitzvot always. For they are our life and the length of our days. We'll meditate on them day and night, right? Again, let's idea of the Shema. We recite it in the day and night. Never take away your love from us. Praised are you who loves your people, Israel. So a few things to say about this. One is that it is about revelation. It's about God giving us the Torah, but it's also about God's love for us. And so I tried to suggest to one of my teachers that this is a polemic against Paul in Christianity, but he wasn't impressed. Now, so whether it was intended as a polemic against Paul or not, I think it is a polemic against Paul, at least from what I know about Paul, which is about this much, right? So Paul, my understanding in Christianity, said that the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the covenant the Jews had with God, was based on the Torah, which was laws, all these strict rules the Jews had to follow. And it was harsh. These laws are cruel and demanding, and God is a demanding God, and it's all about reward and punishment, and God's going to punish us if we don't follow laws. And Paul didn't like those laws. At least that's my understanding. So he said the new covenant that he understood Jesus represented, was all about God's love. And God loves people, and it's all about love, love, love. And there's no law. It's just about love. And so you don't have rules to follow, and you don't have these oppressive things you have to, and that make you into a criminal and whatever. And so he opposed law on the one hand and love on the other, Old Testament, New Testament. Did I get that right, by the way? Does anybody happen to know, am I sort of way off base, or does that sound right? Anyway, if that's the case, this prayer comes to tell you just the opposite. No, 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 no. You got it all wrong. God loves us so much. He gave us the law. The law is all about love. It's like a parent who tells his children, look both ways before you run out into the street. Don't touch the hot stove, right? Don't stay out late at night, right? Parents give their kids rules because they love them and they care about them and they want them to grow up to become good people. And so they try to give them rules to live by, to live a good life. And we believe God loves us so much, he gave us these rules so that we could live a good life. He expressed his love through the laws that are not opposites. They're two sides of the same coin. So I don't know, maybe I mischaracterized Paul, but in any case, that is the message. The message of this prayer is that God's love for us is expressed in these laws. And so our response to God is to follow the laws by way of showing our love for God, right? God loves us. He gave us these rules to live a good life. And the way we show our love for God is by following the laws and living a good life. And that's what this second prayer is. Now, I just would point out again that in the morning form of the prayer, it is called Ahavat Olam, an everlasting love. God has loved us. And then in the evening, it's still only one paragraph. I mean, in the morning, it's still only one paragraph. It's a slightly longer paragraph. Where is it? Here. There. Ahava Rabbah, with not an everlasting love, but a great love. Rabbah means great. So with a great love, you have loved us. Boundless is your tender compassion. You taught our ancestors life-giving laws. They trusted in you, our Father King, for your sake. Graciously teach us, and help us to follow these laws. And we're going to study these laws and heed its teachings, and open our eyes to your Torah, right? Open our hearts to understand what these rules mean and how to live our lives better. And we'll never be brought to shame. Trusting in your awesome holiness, will delight in your deliverance. Now, remember what I said about the new light shining on Zion? Look what the guy did here. Same thing. We're talking about God loving us and giving us laws and how much he loves us in the laws, and we're going to follow the laws and we're going to love the laws and open our hearts to following the laws. And all of a sudden it's what? Bring us safely from the ends of the earth and lead us in dignity to our holy land? You are the source of deliverance. You have called us from the peoples and tongues, constantly drawing us near you. And so, right, and so all of a sudden he's thrown in again this messianic idea, right? Returning to our homeland. It's about the Messiah again, in a place where it doesn't belong. Once again, he's done that. But then he concludes with, praised are you who loves the people of Israel, right? Right? So that last word in the sentence before is that clue in the jazz riff, right? That's bringing you back to the theme of love, right? The last word of the sentence before, it brings you back to the theme of love before the seal of the blessing, which says, who has chosen his people with love. Okay, so now we have creation and revelation before we recite the blessings of the Shema. And then we have redemption. That's that third idea in Franz Rosenzweig's trio, right? About God as Redeemer. That comes after the Shema. So then we say, after reciting the Shema, we say, it's true that you're the only God, and you loved us so much, and you took us out of Egypt with signs and wonders, right? So this is about God as Redeemer. And it concludes with Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, the song that our ancestors sang when they crossed the Red Sea and were finally free from slavery, for sure. Now, why is this song so important? Because it wasn't until the Egyptian army was destroyed by the Red Sea that the Israelites were truly free. Up until that moment, the Egyptians had this powerful army, and they were already had penetrated into the land of Canaan. We know that from archaeological sources. They could easily have gone all the way into Canaan, captured the slaves, and brought them back to slavery in Egypt. It wasn't until the Egyptian army was destroyed that they could no longer pursue the Israelites, that they were truly free from their Egyptian captors. And so it was at that moment that they sang this song, Mi Chamocha. And by the way, even modern Bible scholars say this is one of the most ancient passages in the entire Bible and may go back to the time of the Exodus itself. So they sang this song, who is like you amongst, you wiped out this powerful army before us so that we can now be truly free from slavery. And this became the paradigm of God's acting in history God's helping to redeem us and rescue us from difficult times. And so much so that, you know, it appears all over the Bible in many later centuries. We remember that God took us out of slavery in Egypt, and also has important impact for us in how we treat other people. We're supposed to remember to treat the stranger well, because we were strangers in Egypt. We're supposed to be kind to all human beings because we know what it's like to be the underclass, the outcast, the undesirable, because that was our position in Egypt. And we understand that it's a commandment on us to treat everybody with kindness and fairness. And so that's the third element of Franz Rosenzweig's trio, right? It ends with redemption. And in the morning prayer, okay, so in the evening prayer, it begins with emet ve'emunah, right? True and trustworthy. And in the evening prayer, in the morning prayer, sorry, it is emet v'yatziv, right? True and enduring, right? But it also goes to the, it's a little bit longer again because it's the morning prayer, but it ends here down with mi chamocha again, and how God redeemed us from the slavery in Egypt, okay? So both of those are there. The only other blessing that I want to mention here is that in the evening, we've added a fourth blessing. It doesn't appear in the morning service. In the morning service, after the redemption prayer, we go into the Amidah. But in the evening, we have this second blessing after the Shema, which is called Hashkivenu. And this is because in the evening is scary. Certainly in the ancient times before electricity, it was dark outside, and darkness is scary. You don't know what's around the corner. You can't see too far, and bad people may be lurking, or lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And of course, people believe in supernatural spirits and other kinds of weird things at night. So sometimes it's hard to fall asleep at night. You're worried and concerned and whatever, right? So there's drama at night, psychological drama, maybe sometimes real drama in the world. And so we added a special blessing at night, which says, help us to lie down in peace, right? Tonight, I mean, these days you might do like a meditation, play a meditation tape to help you to relax. This was the blessing that was helping you relax. Help us to lie down in peace and awaken us to life again. Like, I will wake up in the morning. That was another thing you were afraid of, right? When you go to sleep, you may not wake up in the morning. So this is asking God to help us to lie peacefully at night, to get a good night's sleep, and to awaken us to life renewed. Spread over us your shelter of peace. I love this prayer, by the way. I really, this means a lot to me these days, especially these days, turbulent times. Guide us with your good counsel. Save us because of your mercy. Shield us from enemies and pestilence. By the way, enemies in the Psalms and enemies in the prayers, it's a metaphor, or it can be a metaphor. It doesn't have to mean people with swords and bazookas. It can mean disease. It can mean emotional conflict. Anything that's disturbing your peace, your inner peace of mind, right, is an enemy of your peace of mind. And so I take enemies to be very metaphoric. Shield us from all those crazy things that are keeping us from living a peaceful and productive life, right? And here's a bunch of things that used to bother people. Not so many of these are relevant today, but they're sort of metaphors for other things that do bother us today. So remove those forces that surround us, shelter us in the shadow of your wings, guard us and deliver us. You're graceful and merciful. Guard our coming and our going. Grant us life and peace now and always. Praised are you, guarding your people Israel. So that's the last blessing before the evening. Let me see if I left anything off the, some of the things in the handout now, which I didn't go over, talk about the sources for those prayers, right? And, you know, as I mentioned before, the jazz writers, the jazz performers who did these jazz riffs, and did these solos, these brilliant pieces of artistry, didn't just make stuff up. They were well versed in Bible, and they took snippets of biblical passages and worked them into their jazz riff. So they're very, very clever and creatively done. And so here, for instance, in the Yotzer Or, I think I underlined them in the text that you have, but here's the source. I gave you the sources for them here: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Psalms, right? They piece together from these different biblical passages the different blessings. Okay. Any questions about anything now? I guess we have time for questions. So.
I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's related. I've heard of the Shema prayer, like, well, obviously the Shema prayer doing it at night, but the Vihi Ratzov part at the end of it, what, like, how does that relate to what we just talked about? Is that like
the Shema prayer at night?
Yeah, but the part that they some people add to it, the Vihi Ratzov Adonai Shetaskevenu Adonai, like I guess.
Oh, shoot! You know, I don't have the text for that in front of me. I didn't bring it with me. You know, there is. I think part of that was there's this idea again that nighttime is scary, and I think there's in one version of the evening Shema at bedtime they're asking the angels to guard you, right? And they mention all these different angels to watch over you. So
Curious if
like,
not related. Yeah.
What?
I said I was just curious on like how it related.
Yeah, I mean, you know, those parts, first of all, were kind of added somewhat later. And they're not, you know, the main thing is to do the Shema V'ahavta at night before you go to sleep. The other part is kind of an additional meditation, and I would say if you wanted to substitute your own kind of meditation on the themes, you're a jazz musician particularly, so you can do your own jazz riff on the on the Shema as your own meditation, and you don't have to follow the exact words that somebody else wrote in that case. It's not biblical passages, it's what somebody wrote. So any other questions? Okay, well, we managed to get through the Shema and its blessings pretty well. Of course, the service that we're going to do for the adult B'nai Mitzvah class, those people are participating in that in May. It's just going to be the morning version, right? And usually the parts that are done out loud are only selected parts of those blessings that is done out loud. The rest we kind of do silently, individually. Okay. Well, so if you think of other questions, don't hesitate to write me. And if I don't write you back, like I sometimes don't do, so nudge me, write me again, and say, how come you didn't answer me? Or even better, make an appointment to call or Zoom. Always keep my appointments. Typically, if you ask a good question and I want to think about it and write an answer, it gets buried in this under the next onslaught of emails, and so that's what happens. So if I don't write, that's not I'm not ignoring you. Just telling you my world. But I do, but I'm always happy to talk with anybody. So just call me up. Okay. Questions? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us.
Bye-bye.
And we'll see you again next week.